Week 5 of the NFL season is here, and boy, do we have quite the matchup in Charlotte, Carolina Panthers, Miami Dolphins. We are here to get you guys ready and preview it. As we always do, let's roll.
Brace yourself for the ultimate Carolina Panthers experience. Welcome to Two Growls, One Roar, the podcast that hits harder than a Luke Kuechly tackle. We're diving deep into the heart of Panther Nation, bringing you unrivaled passion, insider takes, and pure gridiron fire. From Wilmington to the cosmos, this is your home for the fiercest football talk east or west of Charlotte.
Welcome in, folks, to another edition of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. I have to say my expectations for this game are very, very slim. I don't have a lot of expectations on either side, and I don't know what to make of it if the Carolina Panthers win this game, but I can tell you if they lose, it is going to be a problem, but we'll dissect everything today, folks. I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome in, Miami Dolphins fans who may be stumbling upon this video or podcast. Appreciate you guys. And if you're a Panthers fan, make sure you hit that subscribe button and follow along. We appreciate you guys being here. Without further ado, we're going to get right into business and breaking down the game like we always do. Let's go ahead and throw some slides up here for you guys. Carolina Panthers, Miami Dolphins. We're going to do the same thing that we always do when we preview. Look at the coaching staff from both teams. We'll talk about the game last week for both of these teams, their schedules. We'll, of course, get into NFL Pro, look at some of the stats, and then eventually get into a breakdown and prediction for the winner of this game. Somebody has to win. There's no denying that. Let's take a look and start with the Carolina Panthers and their coaching staff led by second-year head coach Dave Canales. Things are not looking great in Carolina right now. And I don't know if there's a hot seat, but maybe it's warm. Maybe he's got a seat warmer. I still am in the belief that he will make it through this entire season, no matter what happens. Now, we get through this season and the Panthers win 1, 2, or 3 games, something very, very minimal. I think there will be lots of discussions to be had in the offseason, but at least for where things sit today, feels like he's gonna make it through. Now, we'll find out. Brad Idzik is your offensive coordinator. Remembering that Idzik not calling the plays, it's still Dave Canales. A lot of questions coming up on if Dave Canales is going to let go of play calling. As of right now, that's not going to be the case, at least what he has said to us. Your defensive coordinator, Ejiro Evero, lots of people wondering about his future. It's been a disaster. Regardless of where things sit, this team just feels like the same team that we have seen for the last 5, 6, 7 years. A team that just cannot get it together. And it is a frustrating time to be a Panthers fan and watching all of this unfold because there's not really a bright spot. Every time you think there's a bright spot, that this team's turned a corner, that maybe we're seeing something different, that maybe this team's going to be better, they fold. Sitting here now at 1-3, you just wonder, can they get back on track? They've got an opportunity. You look at the Miami Dolphins, then you go to bring in Dallas, and then you travel to the Jets. At a minimum, you need to win 2 out of those games. Sitting at 3-4, in my opinion, with some difficult games against Buffalo, Green Bay in the mix, throw in the Saints, which we'll look at the schedules here, but to me, that's where the Carolina Panthers have to be. And if you're a Dolphins fan, I'm sure on the other side, when we talk about the coaching staff led by none other than Mike McDaniel, it feels as though there's a lot of pressure cooking there as well. And from the outside, of course, I'm not sourced in or even following enough to know, but it does feel like the Miami Dolphins are in trouble right now and that Mike McDaniel's maybe not going to be there. But they have offensive coordinator Frank Smith. Panthers fans may remember that name when we had our head coaching opening. He was one of the candidates that interviewed. And I looked at my notes here and realized we messed it up on the slide. So I will backtrack for just 2 seconds for those that are watching the live version of this on video and go through the trusty, dusty notes on the side. I have to do that anyways to pull up my glasses. But we'll get Frank Smith, offensive coordinator. Sorry, this is taking a second. Defensive coordinator, Anthony Weaver, and special teams coordinator, Craig Ackerman. Hopefully we say that right for my Dolphins fans. Keep me honest out there. If you guys end up coming by in the chat, you can feel free to make fun of me for mispronouncing. That's the way we do this. Now, one of the things I like to do when we look at the coaching staffs, and I don't have a slide for it, but I like to see, are there crossovers with former Panthers coaches, players, whatever? And we have two. One of them not directly but indirectly in Christian McCaffrey's older brother, Max McCaffrey, who is an assistant offensive coach for the Miami Dolphins. They're just listed as an offensive assistant. There's another name on here as well, Sean Ryan, who is a senior defensive assistant, but was the coach here on the offensive side of the ball, quarterbacks, during the Matt Rule era. So you still have this crossover. I think it goes to show just the nature of the NFL and how these guys bounce around from teams. I mean, you think about it, you got to have a pretty special skill set to be an NFL coach. And I'm not talking head coach, just a coach in general, position coach. And I mean, I'm sure there's framework for some of these guys that are like, look, I'm not trying to be that next thing. I know what I can do. I know what I can bring. I know how to coach. So that's what my position is going to be. So that's what you see here. Heading out of Miami. We will get those slides back up here now that we are back on track. Location, the one and only Bank of America Stadium. And I have a small tidbit of information that seemed to just stir people the wrong way. And this is what's funny about social media and online and platforms. When people think that they know me or they assume and they make assumptions. So folks, the Arizona Cardinals posted some renderings of a new project that they were building for the Arizona Cardinals, this new practice facility. And so in my mind, I was like, you know what? I just want to check up on the Panthers because I know they've got a lot of work coming. And I'm like, okay, well, they're going to have to eventually start talking about renovating the stadium at some point, because I actually went to grab a copy of what the Panthers were going to be building. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go out and grab a picture and all this. I didn't think anything about it. I just kind of left it as is when I posted this image. And you can go out to social media and find me and see it. Well, then I went back and looked and I was like, wait a second, there's some distinct changes in the renderings that are now on the website of Bank of America Stadium, which tracks all the project information in comparison to what was originally shared by the Carolina Panthers and, of course, Bank of America when they put this project together. Notably, it's the fact that Bryce Young's image was scrubbed. Now, this likely happened last year at some point because Adam Thielen is still in the picture, so it wasn't like it was in the last few weeks. And people just don't understand what I am specifically calling out. We're going to get into the Dolphins preview, folks. We're going to continue that, but this is pretty big on the Panthers side of news as it relates to the location of the game. Anyways, you look at the images and you see that there was a picture previously of Bryce Young on the renderings on the stadium outside with the new video board that's going to be around it, and a dad wearing a Bryce Young jersey with his kid on his shoulders at some point last year after he was benched. We don't know when. They scrubbed his image off of there and changed the jersey from a 9 to Derek Brown's jersey. So this goes to show you exactly how far this team went, how far they probably thought that, like, once Bryce was benched and it didn't seem like there was going to be an opportunity for him to come back in that short frame, the team scrubbed it. And the only reason I called that out as significant, no, I still believe in Bryce. I'm not calling this a conspiracy, but it is a direct order from someone in that building that told the marketing and PR teams to get those images cleaned up and remove Bryce Young because they didn't think he was going to be the guy. So that should just tell you a little bit about some of the hot seatness and stuff that's going on here in Carolina. It seems to balance itself out, at least now, but I still think that the clock is ticking. on Bryce Young. I don't think Bryce Young's the sole reason that the Panthers are in the state that they're in, but I know folks want to see improvement. Now, all-time series lead, which we'll get into on the next slide. Miami Dolphins lead the all-time series 6-2, and they've won the last two. When you look at the overall records of the two head coaches, Mike McDaniel, 29-26 record in the regular season, 0-2 in the postseason, and he did win one game overall. I think that was back, 2 years ago. I think we all remember that. For the Carolina Panthers, going back and looking at Dave Canales, he is now 6-15. One of the things that we talked about this week for Panthers Nation, Panthers fans, is the fact that we don't just lose, we get blown out. That happened the last time we played the Dolphins. This team just cannot stay close, cannot keep it competitive. When things go bad, they just spiral out of control, and that's shown with roughly a 3-score margin difference in losses. When the Carolina Panthers lose under Dave Canales, they're losing by about 3 scores total, and that's 17, 18 points per game. It's bad. Your head referee is going to be Clay Martin if you care, and then Eric Collins and Mark Schlereth are going to be on the broadcast. So there we go. We're going to take a look here at the all-time history between these folks. I'll actually make this, where I was trying to make it bigger for me. Made it a little bit bigger. 6-2 all-time series, like we said. Dolphins winning the last two, 42-21 in 2023, and then 33-10 back in 2021. We like to look at the draft picks for Panthers fans. It's a little redundant, but in the same way, it's also a place for us to just have a check-in. Tedero McMillan, definitely the best player out of our draft class, no doubt. And I said it last week that undrafted free agent Ryan Fitzgerald, the kicker, should be added to this list just for the purposes of tracking the rookies, because it's more than just draft picks. But Tedero McMillan, every bit piece of a wide receiver that you want as a number one, had some misses, had some difficulty using both hands, had some drops. We're hoping to get that connection brewing between him and Bryce Young, and Dave Canales talked about getting that deep ball going. Nick Scorton and Princely Umanmielen are your two edge players, outside linebackers that haven't shown us a lot. Umanmielen has one of the 2 sacks. His team only has 2 sacks on the year. One of the 2 sacks by the Carolina Panthers defense, which hasn't done hardly anything. Trevor Etienne not doing anything in the return game, muffing punts, still seems lost. That's what they're trying to bring him in for. It's just not his thing. So getting him in the rotation at running back, we know with Chuba Hubbard potentially missing time. We'll talk about the injury report in a little bit, but he's battling something with the calf. They brought up DJ Dallas on the active roster for the Carolina Panthers. So there's a chance, though, an opportunity for Etienne to maybe get a few more carries. Lathan Ransom, the safety, getting a decent amount of playing time, slowly coming together. Cam Jackson as well. And then Mitchell Evans, with the injury of JT Sanders, also seeing the field. And finally, Jimmy Horn Jr. is going to see some action on the offensive side of the ball, not just special teams this week. I know there's a lot of Panthers fans that have been wanting this to happen, so they'll finally get to see Jimmy Horn Jr. in action for this offense. He does bring a new piece. His speed level is really what we hope, kind of opens up a few things for this team. We're going to talk about all that in a little bit. For the Miami Dolphins, Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle. I am not going to be able to pronounce Jonah, the guard out of Arizona. Jordan Phillips, defensive tackle. Jason Marshall, cornerback. Dante Trader, safety. Ollie Gordon, Quinn Ewers, and Zeke Bigger. So a lot on the defensive side of the ball for the Miami Dolphins this year. Let's talk about last week for both of these teams, recapping week 4 of the 2025 season for the Carolina Panthers. This was a team that suffered a very big defeat to the New England Patriots, final score of 42-13. Panthers offense, they just couldn't stop the Panthers offense stopped themselves. But the Patriots offense could not be stopped by the Carolina Panthers defense. On top of that, you look at what they were able to do in the return game, a punt return touchdown, and then another big punt return over 167 yards ish by their returner. It was a ridiculous day for Carolina Panthers fans to watch. And the offense for New England was just putting up touchdowns left and right, moving the ball with ease. Part of the reason the Panthers are in the state that they are in was they were missing TJ Watt and Pat Jones, who you hope to have back this week. They had DJ Johnson out there, former 2023 draft pick, third rounder. He is no longer with the team because of his performance. That's just how bad it was. On the other hand, I did get to see a lot of the Miami Dolphins and the Jets game. Of course, Tyreek Hill injured, out. No idea what his time. I mean, he could miss a season. I mean, solid season at least, but we'll see. Very close game. Feels like the Jets are just a team that continues to find ways to lose. They're just not a good football team, at least from what we can see. But you know what? You win, you win. Getting into the win column, important for everyone. This game, important for both of these teams, both of these coaches. Probably way more pressure on Mike McDaniel, but an opportunity for the Carolina Panthers too. See how that thing plays out. Looking at the season for both of these teams, starting with the Miami Dolphins, they lost week 1 to the Colts, 33-8, followed by New England, a much closer game than we had, 27-33, a loss to the Bills. That game, they were more competitive, 31-21, and then they finally got over the hump, 27-21 against the Jets. For the Carolina Panthers, it really hasn't been close in any of their games. All their games have been blownouts. You go back to week 1 against Jacksonville, not very close, 26-10, final score there. They were getting blown out by Arizona due to Bryce Young's initial shortcomings and turnovers. They battled back late, recovered an onside kick. They're not able to eventually score. They blow out the Atlanta Falcons playing lights out, and now folks are thinking, okay, this team's got something. And then they come back and lay a goose egg against the New England Patriots. Now, one positive for Panthers fans, if you're trying to find some reason to maybe be happy, is the fact that this game is in Carolina. It's in Charlotte. It's at Bank of America Stadium because, folks, Bryce Young on the road, he is terrible, as is Dave Canales. Both of them combined, they cannot win a game on the road to save their lives. They've won one game, as we talked about, week 18 last year against the Atlanta Falcons, and one game in Germany, and that's it. This team cannot figure it out. But I think the road game was designated as a home game for the Panthers, so I don't know how that plays out. So technically one road win. I know that's overseas, so you kind of factor that in. But this team, man, you now look at the Carolina Panthers, who've had a lot of injuries on the offensive line, a lot of injury at wide receiver, 2 position groups that when we came into the season we felt really good about. The Panthers are where they are. Dave Canales was asked about, how do you manage that? The realization that you don't have your starters, that you're having to go to backups, and it's he acknowledged that you do recognize it. You do see that you don't have whoever is out there, but you do have to adapt. Problem is, I just don't know that the Carolina Panthers are going to be able to do that. They're in desperation mode, having to pick up guys off the practice squad. We saw how that worked last year. Unfortunately, it's a game about being healthy and figuring out how to win with what you got. After this blowout last week for the Carolina Panthers, I think they're just trying to rein this in. We want a close game. If the Carolina Panthers lose, so be it. A game in which it's not a blowout. If Panthers want to blow them out, that's fine. But if this is a back and forth game, really being in it in the fourth quarter, giving the team a chance. Let's just give ourselves a chance. Don't beat ourselves. But maybe if you're a Dolphins fan, you look at this as a get-right game because you think about what the Carolina Panthers have looked like for most of the season, and you say, well, you know what? We don't have Tyreek Hill, but I think with the way our offense is run, the way we can space things out and spread and motion and the speed that we have, probably beat a few of these guys on the edge. So it's a good matchup, I think, for the Miami Dolphins offense against our defense because, to be honest, I just don't think our defense has it. They don't have a lot. Coming into this, a lot of questions on both sides around the health, which, like I said, we'll get into the injury report. And, do you mark this as a must-win game for both of these teams? I think you have to at this point in the season. More so, again, in the side for Miami than the Carolina Panthers, but to me, it is a must-win game. And I just talked about all the headlines. We'll pass through that. We will take a look at the standings right now in the NFC South. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, of course, leading the charge right at the top with a 3-1 record. Point differential that's even at 97 scored, 97 allowed. Falcons 2-2, rebounding after their difficult loss to the Panthers. Panthers sitting at 1-3, and the New Orleans Saints at 0-4. These games are big, man. They are huge for the Carolina Panthers. Of course, the Miami Dolphins, as we now look at the AFC East. Over here, Bills 4-0. The Panthers are really playing the entire AFC East within a span of 5 weeks. They're going to played New England last week. They play the Dolphins this week. Then they have a break. Then they have the Jets. And then I believe it's the Bills. So, yeah, we'll look at the schedule here in a second. But pretty much playing the entire AFC East in a span about almost a month, a little over a month. And upcoming schedule, as I mentioned, doesn't get any easier. This is why the Carolina Panthers and why we talked about this easy stretch of the schedule. Got to get some wins. Miami Dolphins, followed by the Dallas Cowboys, both of the games at home. Cowboys look better than I would have expected, considering everything that's going on there or had gone on. Travel up to New York against the Jets. You get Buffalo's rowdy Bills fans, Bills Mafia coming in. Travel up to Green Bay to take on the Packers like back-to-back. So, if you get to 3-4, or if you get to 4-3, if you're able to sit there, and then you can split one of these Bills or Packers, which I don't think is likely, then you got the Saints. We know the Saints, as bad as they are, they haven't looked terrible, but they, as a Panthers fan, you got to win those games. But thinking about worst case scenario, let's say positive case, 3-4, then you lose 2 in a row, you're 3-6. That's a tough hole to climb out of. On the flip side, if you are 4-3 and then you drop 2, you're 4-5. So you're very close to 500 with a chance to get to 500 against the Saints. That's what we want to see. Got to let it unfold, though. I'm not going to count any of these as wins or possible wins as we look at this. On the side for the Miami Dolphins, Carolina, followed by the Chargers, that's a home game for Miami. They travel up to Cleveland, then play at Atlanta, have the Ravens, and then the Buffalo Bills at home. So kind of a similar boat. I think the Chargers, pretty good team. Browns, beatable. Falcons, would probably tip my favor right now in favor of the Dolphins. The Ravens, who've gotten off to kind of a bumpy start, you wonder what's going on there, but should be back on track in Buffalo. So I think, again, if you are a Dolphins fan, you got to look at this as a chance for them to be able to win. All right, folks, let's hop over to NFL Pro. Let's take a look at some of the data like we do every single week, getting into some of the nuts and bolts in our preview right now, and we get into the final breakdown at the end. 1.5 point favorite for the Miami Dolphins. Right now, the Dolphins are putting up 20.8 points per game compared to the Carolina Panthers at 18.8. That's 26th in the NFL. Point differential is 24th for the Panthers, 28th for the Dolphins. So Panthers doing a little bit better there, but when you outscore an opponent 30-0, that helps. Record in close games is 1-1 for Miami, 0-1 for the Panthers. We have already looked at the margin of victory. Turnover differential is about even with both of these teams. -1 for the Panthers, -2 for the Dolphins. Total penalties, 22, which ranks 4th in the NFL for Carolina, and 25, which ranks 9th for the Dolphins. Let's hop over to insights. I looked at these earlier, in particular with Ike Ekwonu, which we'll call out here as we talk through these. The Dolphins have motioned at a league-high rate of 77.9% this season. I've talked about their motion, their speed. Under Coach Mike McDaniel, Miami has posted the highest motion rate in the NFL in 3 of his 4 seasons. The Dolphins' motion rate climbs even higher to 88.5% on designed runs, which ranks first. Motion rate on designated runs would be the highest record since 18. They motion, they get you out of position, and I got to tell you, guess what? That's perfect when you're playing the Carolina Panthers because they seem to look in the backfield and not know what's going on. Let's talk about Ike Ekwonu. I posted this earlier. There's a lot of issues on this team right now. A lot. Ike Ekwonu is one that's buried underneath. He's not having a good season. Panthers left tackle Ike Ekwonu has given up 18 pressures on 120 pass blocks. That's 15%, which ranks as the 5th highest pressure rate allowed among left tackles with a minimum of 50 pass block attempts. Despite only playing in 3 of the team's 4 games this season, Ekwonu leads all Panthers offensive linemen with 18 total pressures allowed. In the Week 4 loss against the Patriots, Ekwonu surrendered a team-high 5 pressures and the only sack. Dude is not playing good. Now, caveat that when you start looking at the rotation between Austin Corbett, Cade Mays, Robert Hunt, Chandler Zavala, so that interior, you're really talking about between Damian Lewis and Taylor Moton in comparison to Ike Ekwonu when you talk about the team itself, but still not great. Devon Agent has forced a missed tackle on 26% of his carries this season, 9th highest with a minimum of 50 carries, and has gained 36.7% of his yards after a missed tackle, which is the highest mark in the NFL. The Panthers have recorded just 13 missed tackles on rushes by running backs this season, the 6th fewest in the NFL. I don't know how that is possible. That feels like just complete BS. Their missed tackle rate on such rushes stands at 15.9%, the 3rd lowest. I don't know where they're tracking that, but I'm not buying it. Last little bit of insight previewed here by NFL Pro. Tedder McMillan has been targeted in press man coverage on 41.7% of his routes this season, tied for 6th highest among receivers. The Panthers rookie has recorded 5 receptions for 84 yards against press man coverage, ranking 2nd most in both categories. The Dolphins played press man at 18.8% of dropbacks, 11th highest, and above the league average. So there you have it. Those are your insights. Let's get back to the pro preview presented by NFL Pro, which is not a sponsor, but fun to say. Overall passing efficiency, when we look at the Dolphins offense against the Panthers defense, it's about even. You're going to go 15 versus 18. Rushing efficiency slightly favors the Miami Dolphins. Pressure rate, as far as pressure rate that we are getting versus what they are allowing, heavily favors Dolphins. Panthers don't have a pass rush. That's a problem. 31st in the NFL. Looking at the Panthers offense, their passing efficiency slightly favors them. I mean, the Dolphins are number 31. Rushing efficiency slightly favors them as well as you look at the Panthers offense, and then pressure rate allowed. Dolphins also not being able to generate a lot of pressure on their side. We talked through at a high level the key advantages for both teams. I don't know that I'm going to go through every single one of these metrics. I mean, the Carolina, I guess, like high level, the key advantages for the Dolphins, passing versus pressure. Dolphins, fantastic. Intermediate passing is in favor of the Carolina Panthers defense. Rushing versus a stacked box favors the Dolphins. Pressure rate we talked about, and then rushing under center. Carolina Panthers offense, short passing game, works well. Passing versus pressure, slightly, it doesn't work great, but it's better than what the Dolphins are able to do. Running inside the tackles, which, you know, David Canales loves that, quick passing, and rushing versus a stacked box. We looked at the keys to the game, breaking those down. Now we'll look at the player projections. Tua projected to put up 240 and 1 touchdown. Achane, 79. rushing yards, and then Jalen Waddle with about 66 receiving, Malik Washington 35, Darren Waller, who's having a little bit of resurgence there with 31. Look at team leaders here in a second. For the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young projected to put up 202, 1 passing touchdown, 0 interceptions. Chuba Hubbard, we'll see, 69. Tedero McMillan stayed on his steady pace of 60 to 60 yards, 65 yards. Hunter Renfrow with 34, although I'm not buying that. And then Tommy Tremble right now with 26. The injury report is massive. So on the side of the Miami Dolphins, Storm Duck, former North Carolina Tar Heel, I know he bounced around. He did not participate today. Cornerback, Cedric Wilson, wide receiver, did not participate with a knee. Ethan Bonner was limited. Darren Waller was limited, but it says hip, not injury related. He was resting. And then Jordan Brooks and Jonah Sovanaya, the guard, both of those guys were full participant. Panthers, we're going to need a book here. Chuba Hubbard with a calf did not participate. Taylor Moton had a rest day. Jatavian Sanders battling the ankle still week to week. Shaw Smith-Wade did not participate. Chest. Turk Wharton with the toe did not participate. TJ Wonham was limited, but positive news, Cam Jackson, Patrick Jones, XL, Xavier Legette, Cade Mays, excuse me, guys, Tedero McMillan and LeBrian Ray all were full participants. Taking a look at your team leaders in passing, Tua with 752 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a 93.2 rating, 6.6 yards per attempt, and a 69.3% completion percentage. Bryce Young on the season, 753 yards, 1 more, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 77.1 rating, 5.2 per attempt, 60 completion percentage, 60.4, man. This guy's completion percentage just cannot get above 65. The rushing attack we talked about, 246 on the ground for H&. You can see Malik Washington as a receiver getting very involved. 60. I remember Ollie Gordon the second coming out. We were looking at him. He has 60 yards on the ground. Again, doing what they can to get their playmakers in space. Chuba Hubbard with 217. Rico Dowdle with 83. And then Bryce Young with 53. On the receiving side, Tyreek Hill, who's out, 265. Jalen Waddle, 185. Devon Agent, again, we talked about 143. Tedero McMillan with 278 leads the team. Bryson Tremaine slowly making his way up with 99. Chuba Hubbard actually third with 94 yards at this point. Carolina Panthers just not great at all on the defensive side of the ball, trying to find anything that they can to be able to generate pressure, make some plays. That's all that we can ask for. So that will cover the NFL Pro preview. Let me go back to my notes here so I can make sure we keep this show rolling on. Appreciate you guys. If you're still here and you're not subscribed or following, it would be appreciated if you do it. We already looked at the injury report. We talked about team rankings, very high level. I guess we can hop over here for 1 second. Looking at the Panthers versus the Dolphins here on offense for Miami. Again, 20.8 points per game, which is 21st, compared to 23.8, which is 19th for the Panthers. Putting up 286 yards, Miami's offense, only 26th in the NFL. Allowing 327 is the Panthers defense. That ranks 19th. Third down efficiency, second best in the NFL for the Dolphins at 48%. Panthers are 15th with 37%. They score, once they get into the red zone, their percentage of scoring a touchdown is 80%. That's second in the NFL. Really good red zone offense for the Miami Dolphins. On the Carolina Panthers, 18.8, which is 26th in the NFL. Dolphins are giving up 29 points per game. So there's a chance, man. It's a reason that they only won 1 game as well. So there's an opportunity. Only putting up 289 yards, just 24th in the NFL compared to 378 allowed by the defense of the Dolphins, which is 26th. Third down efficiency is 38% for Carolina, 20th compared to the Dolphins giving up 51% on third down. So there's some chances. Red zone scoring touchdowns for the Panthers, not bad either at 70%, which ranks 6th in the NFL. Lots of opportunities. Let's move on because I don't want to spend too much more time on that. Let's take a look at the depth charts, and then we'll get into our final. I'll say we're going to look at the depth charts and some of the transactions for the Carolina Panthers. Let's see if we can get our tab pulled up here for you guys. It was a busy week, busy 2 days for the Carolina Panthers here. So let's start with yesterday. We talked about DJ Johnson being waived, DeLavon Campbell being waived with an injury. They placed David Moore today and Chandler Zavala on IR. So you're talking about 4 weeks minimum. They signed DJ Dallas and Travion Thomas from the practice squad to the active roster. They also signed offensive tackle Jake Curran from the Cardinals practice squad to the active roster, and then signed running back Trey Tyus, guard Aiden Williams, and guard Sahidic Charles to the practice squad. So Panthers having to stay busy, just trying to figure out what the heck they're going to do. Switching over to the Carolina Panthers as we get this pulled up. At their current depth chart, Tedero McMillan starting. We know David Moore is gone. Hunter Renfrow still in the slot as of now. Curious to see if Jimmy Horn Jr. gets some reps. Man, I hope so. Ike Ekwonu, Damian Lewis, Cade Mays, and then we know Chandler Zavala is going to be replaced. This hasn't been updated. Taylor Moton, JT Saunders is hurt. XL still in the mix. Bryce Young and Chuba Hubbard. I mean, there's just a lot of pieces for this team, man, that need some help. On the defensive side of the ball, Turk, Ashawn Robinson, Derek Brown, Pat Jones, Trevin Wallace, Christian Roseboom, DJ One, Mike Jackson, JC Horn, Trayvon Merrick, Nick Scott. And we will now turn our attention over to the Miami Dolphins. Let's take a look and see what we have there. So they've been, let's see what they got going on. So they waived cornerback Cam Smith off the reserve non-football illness list yesterday. They signed wide receiver Cedric Wilson Jr. Got to replace Tyreek. He needs some help off of the New Orleans practice squad and placed wide receiver Tyreek Hill on injured reserve. The team also signed linebacker Caleb Johnson to the practice squad. So that covers those transactions. We'll now look at the Miami Dolphins, which we know with Tyreek gone, you're probably going to see more of Malik Washington. Maybe even a little bit of Taj Washington as well. But Patrick Paul, Jonah Sylvanaya, guard Aaron Brewer, center right guard Keon Smith, right tackle Larry Borum, tight end Darren Waller, fullback. Love the team with the fullback Alec Ingold, Devon Achen running back, Tua Tagovailoa, and then Jalen Waddle. They also had Nick Westbrook, a kind who I remember looking at from Tennessee this past offseason as some potential players. On the defensive side of the ball, defensive end, Chop Robinson, Zach Sealer, Benito Jones, Bradley Chubb, Wolfpack, Tyrell Dotson, linebacker, Jordan Brooks, linebacker, Jalen Phillips, outside the linebacker, Storm Duck, cornerback, Jack Jones, cornerback, Minka Fitzpatrick, safety, and Ashton Davis, the safety as well. I always pass over special teams, but I know that the new kicker, the replacement kicker that Dolphins ended up bringing in, it's been pretty good from what we can tell. So let's get you closed out. Let's pull this back up here. We are not going to read this. Every week I put this on there. I'm so sorry, guys. Every week I put on the capsule report and I have all good intentions, but then we get in here and it's about 38, 40 minutes in. And I'm like, I just can't do it this week. I got to figure out a way to do this in its own episode because there's some really cool data in here. But for now, let's get into the final prediction this week, breakdown as we get ready to close it out and get you guys on your way. Appreciate you as always. 48.5% chance as of when I recorded this for the Dolphins to win. The Panthers are finally favored, according to ESPN Analytics, with a 51.1% chance. That's slim. The Dolphins are still favored via Vegas, which leads us to the question, who the heck is going to win this football game? Honestly, I think you could split this down the middle and just do a coin toss and pick which team is going to win. For me, I look at the Miami Dolphins, and it's no offense to the Miami Dolphins, and I probably will eat crow and wish I didn't say this, but I feel like Miami is headed into just the abyss, and it feels like this one, not that it means more, but for Carolina, they got to figure something out. And if they don't, we got bigger problems. I could still go either way. Like if you came up to me on Sunday, told me, oh yeah, by the way, you looked into the future and said, Miami wins by 15. I said, oh yeah, that makes sense. Carolina wins by 5, whatever, something weird like that. I feel like either way, you could talk me into it. So for now, we're going to go ahead though. And folks, we're going to predict a Miami Dolphins win. As much as I wanted to predict a Panthers win, I haven't been great this year at predicting this stuff. It's just been a slap in the face. I'm back on my mode of I can't predict the Panthers to win a game until they prove it. And so maybe this is the opportunity for them to prove it. Maybe this will be similar to when I picked them to lose to the Atlanta Falcons and they lost. I mean, we bounced back that. I picked them to win against the New England Patriots and they lose. I can't do it again. So I'm taking another loss. And if I lose, that's great. Miami Dolphins 24, Carolina Panthers 17. And if we wake up and this happens, oh boy, the phone lines, everything in Charlotte's going to be booming. It's not going to be great. So anyways, folks, appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, please drop your predictions. This is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a